So much to talk about. I don't know where to start.
Hello, everybody. Not the good start. Hello, Podnutsians. Welcome to TheMakerz episode number 22. This is DoorToDoorGeek, owner-operator of Podnuts. First and foremost, everything is my fault because I'm the owner-operator and the buck stops with me. No show in a while, my fault. All kinds of stuff, family stuff, work stuff, me stuff, and just exhaustion stuff is what I'm going to say. Is a podcast all about making, designing, building, creating, destroying, catching on fire, and everything between. This show, joined by Brett. How's everything going, Brett?
It's going pretty good. Let's see. I've done a lot of stuff since I've been on here last. Making, building, a lot of destroying, but mostly the good things.
Gotcha. Is there anything you've built, broke, or learned in the last since the last that caught your mind?
Let's see. I built a van and started traveling with it, and that's been fun. Liam actually helped me with remaking the van into more livable. So I'm traveling with that and having a lot of fun with that.
Would this be classified as urban camping, possibly?
I would be okay with that. That sounds fun.
Yeah, I mean, this day and age, you have to give everything a name. That's cool. I will say, I'm a touch bit envious just because now you are the master of your domain. You get to do whatever the hell you want, when you want, why you want, how you want. But I think most interestingly about the van modification is you took out the passenger seat of the van and you replaced it.
Yes. At first, it was replaced with a 3D printer. Now it's replaced with just living space. But it's, don't need a passenger right now, so why have a seat?
Gotcha. Very cool. Well, no matter what, glad to hear from you. And yes, right now you're at least 4 states away. You're in Texas, actually in Liam's shop right now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I believe 4 states away. So it's the van's holding up pretty good.
well, most importantly, keep looking over your shoulder. We're also joined this week by Chad. How's everything going, man?
Hey, Door. Really good. It's been a busy spring. It's spring's a busy time for me, so really busy. Really busy. Making, doing other stuff. It's just life's catching up to you, spring.
Gotcha. Did the contract come through you were hoping to get with the local sports team?
Yeah, we'll be rolling that out here towards the fall when football actually starts up, and because right now it's kind of a dead time for it. But yeah, I think it's a go. Haven't heard anything negative about it. I think it's a go.
Very cool. That to me is like one of the things, if you really want to make, there's almost no better excuse, reason to make other than you sign a contract with somebody and then they expect results. So then you're forced to learn how to ramp up your production, get a little bit tighter, a little bit better, more efficient, less effort for each unit. And then the other good thing is when there's nothing to do, in air quotes, there's still plenty to do.
Yeah, and if it picks up, we're not quite sure what kind of sales we're going to have from it, and it's kind of an up in the air deal. So we're not going to invest anything into new equipment or anything. But he's looking at expanding his shop or his facility where he does t-shirts and embroidery stuff. And the facility would have enough room to where it's got a secondary room where I could have a shop in there if it came down to it. So I don't know. A lot of things up in the air.
Gotcha. Well, and I have to believe with your experience in 3D printing, laser cutting and stuff like that, it wouldn't take you too long to ramp up an area. The longest it would take, I would think, is a week and a half, 2 weeks to get the stuff shipped to you, and then you could have it set up pretty quickly.
Well, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't take much. I mean, facility-wise, that router doesn't take up much facility, just a little bit of room. There's no infrastructure that needs, you don't need 3-phase or anything, so it's pretty much just get some good shelving in there and some good light, and there you go. Good air cleaning, that kind of stuff.
Very cool, man. Hope it all goes well, and it goes, because to me, the most important thing with this kind of thing isn't whether or not it becomes busy or not, but that it becomes busy at a manageable rate. If that is possible, then to me, that's awesome.
Yeah, hoping for slow scale.
Right. Yep. We're also joined this week by Liam. How's everything going, Liam?
Things are going pretty darn good, Door. Lots of new stuff and projects and people visiting. Just kind of overall been good. It's been good enough that I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Don't tempt fate, man. It appears to me like you've been a little crazy busy with the laser. Can I ask, what is the coolest thing you think you've done with the laser, or the most fun thing, and not lost your vision?
I haven't really done much cool, quote unquote, stuff with the laser. It's all flat stock ultimately. We cut out the parts. I say cut out the parts to upgrade Brett's FT5 to the same amount and get rid of the hatch at the bottom like mine. That was kind of nice. Cut out a second one of those so that when he goes and visit Aaron, he can take it with him. So you can have a set of those as well. Just simple stuff like that with the laser. What I love about the laser is it's quick.
Oh, that's a nice plus. Yeah, I will say I've only still just seen footage of it. Never actually seen one with my own eyes. I have a feeling that's going to change here shortly, though. But I will say you are almost the opposite of Chad. You almost force yourself to be busy with stuff, whether it be designing, cutting, or printing. You always have something going on, it seems like.
Well, the older I get, the more I find surprise naps happen if I don't move. It's like a shark, I guess. You keep moving, or the gills rot and fall asleep.
Gotcha. Well, I have literally achieved nothing in well over a month and a half, 2 months. I still have the magnetic bed sitting next to my printer. Haven't had the time, inkling, or push to go get that done. So it's literally sitting right next to my 3D printer. I will say really quick, Jonas is not here yet, and I've never ever in my life thought I would ever have to say this on a podcast, but I really hope the volcano is nowhere by Jonas right now. He's in Hawaii, active volcano, shooting like 100 plus feet up in the air. The other, we have a Patreon who sends us pictures. He's like 10 miles from it. Yeah, so hopefully Jonas is going to join us, and he will laugh about this kind of stuff, and he'll be okay. And I hope everyone down in Hawaii, it's okay. I've now checked off Florida. I'll never live in Florida. I'll never live in North Carolina, hurricanes and stuff. I'm never going to live in California, earthquakes. I'm never going to live in like Kansas area, tornadoes. Now not going to live in Hawaii, volcanoes. So as it turns out, I might actually already be living in an okay area because I don't really have many natural disasters.
Yeah, earthquakes aren't as bad as you think, unless they're, really, really big.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things you really don't know until it's kind of there. And I'm looking for the link. Aaron sent us a link in Voxer, and it was a conference event festival, whatever, in Bel Air, Maryland, which was literally like 15, 20 miles from my house for 3D printing and making.
Yeah, it was East Coast rip rap or something, wasn't it?
I can't seem to Google and find it, and I have a very nasty habit of over clearing my Voxer cache. Oh, I'll put it like this. It was less than 20 miles from my house, maybe just over 20 miles from my house. Like a festival conference at a community college. So I don't expect it to be grandiose or whatever. I'm really tempted to approach them about being a sponsor to the event, and possibly do some content from the event or ask them to come on to talk about the event as well. If I can find a link, I'll make sure it's in the notes, but I can't seem to find it right now. I will say with that, it seems like I've been in my Google feed on my phone. I have said I want to follow 3D making kind of things. I will say, I've seen plenty of stuff pop up in my feed about 3D printing, and it all seems to be semi-industrial related, whether it be GM trying to do 3D printer related stuff or like doctors doing stuff around 3D printing seems to be where all the headlines are going right now. I don't know if you guys have seen anything that you found interesting in recent weeks, but that one of the things that caught my eye was GM doing 3D printing.
Yeah, for me it was interesting to find I think it was the GM one doing the pistons was 3D printed pistons made out of metal with basically hollow insides. So it'll be just as strong with a honeycomb uh, a honeycomb style infill, but it's a lot less moving mass, so it technically would make a lot more power.
Gotcha. And I'll say I have absolutely no problem admitting I have no idea about the actual benefits why they would do it, but I just thought it was interesting. And thank you for the link here. I think Chad, East Coast reprapfestival.com. Link in the notes. June 23rd, June 24th, Bel Air, Maryland, up at Harvard Community College. I'm going to try to contact them, see if I can at least become a sponsor and see if they want to come on the show and talk about the event at all. And that's where I think if I'm going to see a laser printer or a laser engraver kind of thing, maybe I'll see it there, because my guess is I'm going to see all kinds of making going on.
Yeah, they got to have the obligatory hang print too, right?
Not sure. So I'm just going to throw this out. Does anybody have any links they would like to talk about or any topics they would like to bring to the show?
Well, I have some laser stuff about the laser stuff. If you want to talk about that, I can throw those links in. Do you want them in the YouTube or the Hangout chat or in the Mumble chat, or you got the doc open?
Yeah, I see in the doc you have a couple things.
Yeah, they're just basically for the Lightburn software. They've just updated again. They have now a rotary control, so you can do glasses and wine bottles and different things in there. It's all in the control now. That software is phenomenal. It's a must-have if you've got one of these K40 printers, or pretty much any printer. It's compatible with most controllers out there too, for the printers, or for the cutters, laser cutters. I picked it up when I got the Cohesion 3D Mini controller board for these lasers, and that thing, I wouldn't even suggest buying the laser unless you're willing to spend the $100 on getting that controller. And it takes 20 minutes to put in. It's all just plug and play. All the software is already put in there, ready to go. I mean, literally, it's just put the software in, put the USB or the SD card in there, plug in, take the old clips off, put them on the new board, and it's ready to go. It is that easy, and it performs beautifully. I think Liam's got it, and I think he's on the same page as I am, and just in love with the price point that it's at and the quality that it is. They could easily double the price of that software, and I'd still buy it.
Yeah, the price performance ratio, it's the trifecta. It works amazing. It's intuitive and easy to learn, and it's being developed nonstop.
So I'm going to guess that the default software that you get with the laser engravers like completely sucks.
Yeah, throw it in the garbage. Don't even put it on your computer. It's hackware. It's just stuff that's been hacked together to work, and I wouldn't even waste my time with it.
And it looks like they have 3 different versions: upgrade G code to DSP license, Lightburn G code license key, and Lightburn DSP license key. The most expensive one is $80, and it does look like you can download a trial, which is a big plus. And unlike a lot of other software, it clearly states it's for Windows, OS X, and Linux, which I got to say, that's a really good combination there.
Yeah, they just added the Linux. I looked back, and they had just added that a month and a half ago, maybe, the Linux stuff. It's just a software that's really easy to use. It's not for designing. It's just for the actual cutting out, but it does perform pretty decently for scaling and stuff. And it's kind of nice. You can take in a picture. It has all these ways of improving your picture and stuff for engraving. This guy is spending some time on it, and he knows what he's doing, and it's flawless. I've never had it glitch out on me. It's just works.
Yeah, it's just freaking amazing. You can do a ton of layup stuff in simple design. Mr. Brett here, he was able to grab it, watch YouTube videos, and get a sign taken care of inside of a part of an afternoon. The trial is a 30-day trial, 100% unlimited access to the software. You can get an extension by just contacting them. I've reached out to the developer with a question here or there, get pretty much immediate responses. I didn't read the about page well enough. I was asking him, hey, how many seats do I have with this? And he says, hey, you've got 2 included, but if you need a third, just let me know and I can activate that for you. $30 or the $60 or whatever the heck it costs for the version we're using. Double it. I would have no problem paying that at all.
And what's nice is with that Cohesion 3D Mini controller, those 2 guys work together really closely on making sure that the software works with the hardware. And if you like I made a mistake, I contacted the wrong guy. He sent the stuff over to the other guy. He got back to me within a half hour. It was just, they're really good guys. Shipping on the Cohesion 3D Mini, I was a little leery about, you never know with with some of these sites, it came 3 days faster than they said it would. I mean, it only took like 2.5 days, 3 days for it to get here. It was just phenomenal service. Everything came packaged really nicely. Nothing broken. Everything worked right out of the box. It was great.
Can you do me a favor, Chad? Have a link to that Cohesion 3D Mini in the doc. And it looks like if you go onto the website lightburnsoftware.com under video tutorials, they step by step lead you through connecting your device for the first time, the user interface feature and walkthrough. They put some time into these videos, which I will say, that to me is the first sign of good customer service, is trying to do that initial onboarding, hand holding process of the first time people to make their experience as pleasant as possible. And the customer service that Liam got with the extra user thing, that just shows that somebody wants to go over above and beyond. So this sounds like nothing but good news.
Yeah, there is a link there for the Cohesion 3D Mini right under the it's the control module or whatever it's called there.
The other thing is it shows they're smart enough to realize people aren't going to read things like they should, and if they can put out a simple, easy to follow video, it's going to cut down on their support, which makes them more profitable and be able to work on features better. They have a great forum. I went on there, posted a suggestion. He immediately came on and said, hey, no, that's a bad idea for this reason. So I got that response, and then it was pulled off the board, so nobody else would be seeing it, bugging them about that feature request. And then the other thing that did some reading, I don't know, about page or something. His background is in video game design, and so everything there's got to be as real time as possible. And this stuff loads amazingly fast, and I've never used any software where I could just drag and drop an adobe.ai file into and have it open, let alone open properly. I'm running a 3rd gen Intel chip, and everything is just snappy as can be on here.
Oh, I'm running real shoddy old software hardware, and that software can handle old hardware too. So I'm using a 8 or 9 year old machine to run it. So come on, it's never failed. It works great. So
machine, you win. I tap out, Chad. Really quick, I clicked the link to the Cohesion link. I'm going to guess the Cohesion is that looks like a squarish board with the all the sockets hanging off it. So you basically affix this board to your laser printer, then connect your computer directly to this board.
Yeah, so what that is it's a smoothie board, but it's been customized, all the plugins for almost every K40 design. So you just plug in what off of the old board, plug them in where they fit on the new board, and it's all been designed really well. And it runs on SmoothieWare, which is already installed, already pre-configured. I had a little weird setup, so I had to go in and add like 3 characters to the whole setup to make my stuff work. But of course, that's me because I hacked mine apart before I really sat down and did some reading. But then you USB like you would with any of your Raspberry Pi or whatever, just a USB cable to your printer, and it runs a serial USB control off it, and it works flawlessly. And I think Liam actually purchased, but I don't know if he's got it set up yet, his so you can do it over Ethernet, so you don't have to have a computer sitting right there. But I haven't seen anybody that's really posted anything about it, but it's there. It's an option. I don't know. Then I guess it works through a web control or whatever. So
yeah,
it's
I
there.
haven't installed that module yet. And then I jumped into the SmoothieWare. I adjusted the size of mine because I've mapped it out, got an extra, I don't know, 20 millimeters one way, another 15 the other, and so I wanted to take advantage of those. But yeah, super simple stuff.
Gotcha. So it seems like then this laser is, I don't want to say it's in its infancy, but they're still newer. So basically, as soon as you bought it, you really should, to get the most out of it, go buy this $100 board, slap it in, and you basically up the potential of the laser engraver like instantaneously.
Yeah, I think the way you got to look at it is you don't buy the laser without buying this module or the upgrade. It's a nightmare to run. My motors sounded like heck, and they ground, and I thought I had bad motors when I was using the old control board. It just didn't work for me, and I plugged in this new one, and it ran great. I don't even think I'd suggest anybody buying one of these unless they were willing to spend the, what's it come out to be, about $150 extra to put on the little upgrades that make it a fully comparable laser cutter. I believe. I don't know. For the price, I guess you can't beat it, I don't think.
Yeah, if you're getting a cheap K40 style laser, I just put this in your budget. It'll make it so much better. I fought with that other software, half a day at most, maybe, and it's day and night. I mean, there is no comparison. I've looked at some of the other softwares for some of the other lasers, and this looks better than a lot of those too. And it does work with other controllers, Rudia and Garble and some other stuff. So it doesn't work with just the K40. But man, it's slick.
Yeah, and it's got when they built the board, they made it so it's upgradable. They know what us makers want to do with this thing. We want to put auto Z leveling, so you're not leveling you're not blocking up your parts, you're making a bed. That's what I did. I haven't got auto. Mine's a manual Z bed leveling or Z height setting, but it does have the controllers for the motors if you wanted to motorize it. It's got the hookups to do a axis, so you can do rotary, wine glasses or whatever you want to engrave, which I plan on doing, and I built the rotary for it. I just haven't got it tweaked in perfectly yet.
Gotcha. Have any more links there you wanted to talk about, Chad?
No, I'm good. I just wanted to get that laser stuff out of there. It's been sitting there for a while. I almost forgot that I had done it.
Gotcha. Well, here's one link I wanted to chat about. I'm actually pulling it from our spreadsheet. I think there's a bunch of different ways you can go about creating, making, designing, prototyping kind of thing. And I am a very physical based guy. I mean, I can mentally, think of how I want to do something, but nothing beats being able to physically see it in the real world before you can even print it, kind of thing. So I saw this link, and it was on Hackaday, and it was making 3D modeling child's play with a can of Play-Doh. And I don't know you guys, but I love the idea of this. So I can take what I want to print and physically mold it out of Play-Doh, then pull out stuff like the calipers and the measuring devices, and then get the actual measurements from the Play-Doh, go into the designing software and use those numbers as a starting off point, jumping off point to get the right dimensions of what you want to make. I don't know about you guys, but I thought this was at least mildly genius.
Yeah, I laughed when I opened the link, and then I scrolled down a little and saw what they were actually doing, and that little light in my head went click. That's genius. Because they've modeled some cylinder that has something on it, and as he rolls it across the Play-Doh, it puts the impression on there so that you can then flat measure, and then just use the old mathematics to figure out where things belong. That's using your noodle, man.
Yeah, and because I'm okay, I have I have one mini computer right now, Rock 64, which is like a 4 gigs of RAM Raspberry Pi size computer, much more powerful than a Raspberry Pi. But one of the OSs I put on it absolutely runs hot. So my logic is I have to get a case with a fan on this device if I want to run it correctly. And I can't use a Raspberry Pi case because while the form factor is the same size, the ports are a little bit different. So I can't really use them. And I don't like the idea of downloading a Raspberry Pi file and then trying to manipulate that case to fit my needs. So I'm going to try basically something like this for that board. But I also just pre-ordered the Rock Pro 64, which isn't even out yet. It's coming out in June. And this has an RK, I want to say it's 3399 chip in it. All you guys need to know, brand new chip. It's going to be in some of the newer Chromebooks that are coming out. So this is going to be one of the first mini computers with a chip in it that's also used in consumer grade products that people can go into Best Buy and purchase, which then tells me I should get utterly close to desktop like performance out of a mini computer, which is one of my goals, is to basically have like a computer that I can easily fit in my backpack, take back and forth to work, bring down here, take other places, connect up a Bluetooth keyboard mouse to it, hook up to any monitor that's laying around kind of thing. And voila, I have myself my portable computer ready to roll anytime that I need it. And I like the idea of physically modeling something to the board I have, then measuring it and trying to make that case out of that.
Yeah, that's a great use case for that, because then you can just sandwich it in there and take it off and measure your stuff up and have a perfect little model of it.
Either that or it's going to fail miserably, but either way, it should be fun. Just one other quick maker thing I wanted to just chat about, and I don't know if you guys are even aware of this. Nintendo Labo is Nintendo Switch. I don't know. Ever since video games became a thing, every company has had the goal of selling you pointless accessories to go with the device. Okay, no matter what it is. Nintendo might have just hit like the triple double. They might have just, did the hat trick or whatever, because they're getting people to buy cardboard with their console. And it's weird. I'll just say that. I bought Labo for my kids. They played the living crap out of it. Easily 10 plus hours worth of time making the things, folding the cardboard up and making them, and then interacting with them on the games. And there's already a company in the UK who have a custom Labo cardboard you can buy. It turns it into a guitar and you can do other things. But I really do believe the problem with cardboard is it's cardboard. So I really do believe that I'm going to have to, at least sooner or later, start 3D printing some of these accessories for them to use with it. And I honestly believe the maker world should get on this as soon as possible and 3D print custom Labo stuff and sell them as well, because knowing Nintendo fans, I would think they would buy anything as long as you put a logo on it of a Nintendo game they like. They don't care. They'll spend the money.
You were not wrong, Door. You were not wrong there. Yeah, Uncle Brett brought a Labo with him.
Yeah, that was. I figured I'd have the little dude build it, and if I liked it, I'd just take it when I left. But he liked it more than I thought, so yeah, I guess I'm leaving it here.
Well, which one did you get?
I got the 5-in-1 model, the non-robot one.
Yeah, the variety pack where you have a house, motorcycle, fishing rod, piano, RC car, which is really isn't an RC car, um, and stuff like that. I'll just say the piano is the one that amazes me, where you can literally like move the top, shake the top, and it will be like reverb as you're playing a note. I've seen people do like multi-track recordings and then overlay them to make unbelievable music out of this thing. To me, it really is mind blowing. But the fishing one is the one that I love the design of how the string never moves really, but it feels like it's moving, and the crank sound out of it, all out of cardboard and string. I am, with no apologies, Nintendo fanboy, period. But this, I think they literally hit a grand slam home run, top of the ninth, bases loaded. They did everything right with this thing. And I think it's going to at least help kids understand the basics of engineering, dare I say.
Yeah, I like the idea. I think it's a great idea, especially since everything is done with, if I remember right, the infrared sensor on one of the Joy Cons, and it's pretty impressive what you can do with it.
Yeah, and everybody's expecting there to at least be sooner or later a rock band type game that utilizing this kind of thing. So yeah, there's like an IR sensor in one of the remotes, and both the remotes have very sensitive gyroscopic sensors in it. So sometimes it's just the gyroscope recognizing simple movement, and other times they use reflective tape, and the IR is ultra sensitive to that reflection, so it can see very clear when things are happening. And the responsiveness that I see when I dabble with it, kind of thing, it kind of blows my mind that it's a handheld gaming console that can be put on a TV, yet can also do all this other stuff. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's very impressive.
So, Liam, is there anything you would like to bring to this show from your notes?
Oh boy, notes. Yeah, that's one of those things I should have, but I do not. I definitely want to talk about resin. I picked up a resin printer. I had an order come in a while back, and I took the money from that and put it into a resin printer. Picked up a Anycubic. It had decent reviews, and holy cow, for the price, the prints coming off this thing are amazing. It's not as messy as I thought it would be, and it prints really fast because it's a DLP, so it's doing an entire screen at a time versus a laser that runs the laser around the different bits. So it'll actually beat the FDMs on some of the stuff I'm printing, but the quality is just out of the park. The cleanup and finishing of the parts pretty quick, pretty straightforward, not too messy. At least not yet. I'm sure there'll be that day I dump the resin out somehow all over me, all over myself and everywhere. The real issue is the smell. That's really my only complaint about it so far. I haven't done a ton of printing with it yet. I've done a couple test prints, and then I'd tried to do one print, and I'd moved it in the car without bothering to check that things were tight and leveled properly, and it peeled up and didn't print properly, but it wasn't like a total failure. But man, just holy cow, how fast this stuff is progressing. It's very, very impressive.
Well, really quick to the other noob, how would you describe a resin printer to the layman?
It's like being able to do resin casting, but without having to have a cast. You're just sending it G code, Well, okay, you're using a 3D file, and they all have their own slicers for the different printers. But it's just slicing up layer by layer, and it spits it out layer by layer. But I mean, you can print at what 2 microns, I think, on this one. I'm printing stuff at 0.1 millimeter, and it's coming out just freaking amazing. I don't have any words to describe how good it looks compared to FDM. I guess it would be the difference between making a I don't know, like a Benchy out of a bunch of Legos, and then making a Benchy out of a standard 0.2 FDM printer. It's that big a difference in the layer line and blockiness and quality of it. It's just, you have to see it to believe it, honestly.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. This is the kind of printer where there's the pool of liquid at the bottom, and then a laser basically hardens a layer of the liquid in the pool, and then basically raises it out of the liquid, and then just continues on slowly building. So it's almost building the opposite. On the 3D printer, it's building from the base and then up, and on the resin, it's almost creating from the top down.
Well, no, it's still doing it from the bottom up. It's just the vat of resin is where it's being dipped into. So if you were to physically look at it, it's dropping the print into it. So when the print's done, it's sitting upside down, hanging in the air from the build plate.
Gotcha.
But yeah, you nailed it. It's UV resin. There's 2 styles right now. The DLP, which is what I have, is the cheap one. Basically, there's a big, huge, probably 20-watt UV light underneath a LCD mask. It's a 2K monitor without the monitor. You just have the shutters from the actual pixels that will either allow or not allow light through. And so that's why you can do an entire layer at a time, as opposed to the laser method where the tiny little laser traces around. And that's why this is so much cheaper too, compared to a actual laser SLA.
Gotcha. So depending on the print, it can be insanely quicker just because the layer might be so big. And yeah, when I think of this, watching this is like almost like science fiction happening in front of you, where a 3D printer is much more, it seems to be more of like a physical, I don't want to say Neanderthal type thing, but it's more of a physical thing where you're actually seeing the stuff come out of the nozzle and build up. This is using light, basically.
For me, it just reminds me of Creature from the Black Lagoon, any of those shows where something comes up out of the swamp, and that's basically exactly what happens. Is this stuff comes out of the resin from technically nothing, you know. So that's what impresses me, is the fact that you can print something and it just comes straight up out of it. I mean, it's understandable, but it is science fiction-y.
So, question, do you still have the same limitations and things to look out for, in the sense of when you're printing on your regular 3D printer, you have to worry about um, using supports and things like that? I'm going to guess the same kinds of things you have to worry about with this as well.
Really, all you have to watch out for is your first layer, which the leveling is dead simple. You run the thing down without the vat there onto a sheet of paper. You press it flat while then screwing in the tightening screw. And then just checking with overhangs, and you can do automatic or manual supports for that. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's super simple. Very, very little options in the slicer as far as that goes. Just kind of, you can pick your layer times for more or less curing. You can pick the layer quality. But with definitely with the DLP though, the amazing thing is that whether the build plate's completely full or you have one piece in there, it's all about how tall the print is that determines the print time. So if you can fit 15 of one in there, it's going to print in the same time as one would.
Well, that's cool. Very cool, very cool. And can I ask roughly how much of an investment was this?
With shipping was like 540.
540?
Yeah, right?
That ain't bad. God.
No.
Okay. Okay. Well, then I'm going to also guess if I make it to this Rep Festival, I'm going to see at least a couple of them.
I would certainly imagine so. Wanahua has theirs. That's the D7. Monoprice just announced theirs. You can order the one that has no screen. The one that has a screen that's pretty much identical to what I have is coming out soon-ish. And then you also have the Anycubic, which is what I have. And they're all right in the same price range, same ballpark, pretty much the same design. It's cool stuff. And I may have also got a Mark III on the way.
Oh, that's all. I can't do that. What is the approximate build size, volume size on the resin printer?
115. Is it 115 wide by 67-ish deep, and I think it's 155 tall, somewhere in there. That's kind of the ballpark. And to be fair, the Mark III I ordered is actually for customer.
Well, first off, that to me sounds like a decent sized build, but you could do a lot with that. The one thing I'm learning is it's nice to have a bigger bed on your printer, but if you actually count the number of times you actually have to have a bigger bed, it seems to be not as often as I first anticipated, number one. Number two, I really hope when you get that Mark III in, you did insist to the customer that you do have to do some QA testing before delivery.
Oh yeah. They bought a multi-$1,000 printer years back that just sat and collected dust. They brought it to me to repair, and I determined, well, honestly, it's just a crap printer, and that it wouldn't be worth the cost to repair it. And I said, why don't we just get you one of these? And he said, okay, order it in. You can teach us to use it, set it up, and everything. And in the meantime, all their printing, they're just doing through me.
Gotcha. And I, for a friend, looked at the Mark III on the website, and it looked like if you wanted to buy the kit that you assemble yourself, it was at least like 6 weeks waiting for shipping, where if you bought the one that was already built, it looked like it was near immediate delivery.
It's supposed to be shipping this month. Back when we ordered it, you were waiting longer on the kit, though I would have gladly built it for free, to be honest, just because I kind of enjoy doing that stuff. But he wanted to get up and run it a little quicker, so we got the kit, the pre-built. But I'll still pull it out in QA and learn it well enough to teach it.
Gotcha. I will say, it's good they didn't buy the kit you have to assemble, because if history is any example, even though it's a Prusa Mark III, something would have came in broke.
Yeah, you are correct. I do have the bad luck. Oh, and I did luck out on the Anycubic. It did have a problem direct out of the box. One of the hinges was loose, and so the thing wouldn't shut properly, but it was a quick open it, slide the hinge over, tighten the hinge, and now it closes properly without trying to bend or jam. So maybe the curse is lifting, or maybe China's just doing a better job of QA and stuff.
Well, they're afraid of the tariffs. Or something. Hey, Jonas.
How's it going?
I'm doing okay, but I gotta ask, man. I never thought I would ever ask this on a podcast, but how's the volcano doing?
It seems to be pretty active right now. The last couple of days, it's been erupting, and today we've actually felt 2 tremors on the entirely opposite side of the island. So I'm sitting here at my office, at my desk, and I feel something like somebody's shaking my chair, and I'm looking around, and nothing's going on, and oh, it must be an earthquake. And then we're driving around doing some work around town, and we're coming back sitting at a stoplight. Same thing, sitting in the car, and it feels like some kids, pushing on your car and shaking it.
Well, I'm really happy it's on the other side of the island, but either way, man, I'm going to ask that if it's possible, could you just every 10 hours or so, just check in on Vox or something just to let us know everything's okay?
No problem.
Because, I think island, how big can it be? It's an island.
Well, it is the Big Island.
Well, then that's a big plus. It's been more than a little while since we spoke last. And I'll say this publicly: I love everybody on this show, but I don't care. You are the guy I think I really should apologize to publicly and the most for, because you are the guy who puts the most effort into the notes, and I want to let you know that it is appreciated, and I feel utterly bad that there's been no show, and you, I'm pretty sure, have still compiled notes at the same rate as if we did a show every week.
Well,
Yeah,
I
just keep storing it
compiled
up,
the
and
0
then
notes,
I,
which is the same rate.
Yeah, I've collected a few, that's for sure.
Gotcha. So, I mean, the first question I really got to ask is, what have you built, broken, or learned since the last show that really, surprised you, or that just interested you?
Well, the main thing is I have been working with this BL Touch nonsense, and I got the CR10 working with the BL Touch. Worked perfectly fine. Marlin is the easiest thing. Don't ever do anything but Marlin if you can help it. And then I quickly killed it by shorting out a couple of the sensor wires when I was putting it back together. And so that completely killed my board. So I was going to get a new board, and I thought, well, I'll just upgrade to a smoothie board. So I bought a Cohesion Mini 3D with the Trinamic drivers. So now I've got the super quiet, super awesome driver setup with the 32-bit board. And they're normally supposed to be for Delta printers, I guess. But, it just makes this, you can't even tell it's running. I've got it sitting next to me at another desk, and I have to look over and see if it's still doing anything because it's so quiet.
Damn, that's nice.
And I did change out all my fans and everything in addition to, swapping out that other thing. But, boy, it's been a chore to get Cohesion 3D Mini to work with that BL Touch. The number one thing is there's no documentation that is really super accurate for this particular version of doing things. You've got to change some pin designations kind of counterintuitively as to what you might think they should be, just to get it to recognize that it's sensing the bed or not sensing the bed. So what it is BL Touch is basically, it's a pin sensor instead of a magnetic field sensor, and it has a pin that is either extended or it's retracted. And so you move the little sensor box down towards the bed with the pin out, and when it gets close to it, if it gets close enough, there's a point at which it's actually magnetically suspended. So there's a point at which it activates the magnet and it kicks the pin back up. And so that's what it senses that, yeah, it's been triggered or not triggered. And then it uses that information to tell you if your bed is detected or not. And so that gives you your Z height. But with the Smoothie Wear software, which is on the Cohesion, it's not a Smoothie Wear board. And that's another issue that I might talk about. But the support, if you're not using a Smoothie Wear board, they would rather not talk to you. From the hardware side. And even Cohesion 3D, when I try to contact them, they only do support through their G Plus channel. I contacted them a couple times through there, and they would email me after that. But again, it's an email linked through the G Plus. And I know when I spoke to the Cohesion people before, when I was trying to set up the laser printer with one of their boards, That one was directly through email, but the 3D thing apparently is specifically through G+, which is not great. It takes them a couple of days to respond to you. I think they're maybe waiting for the community to respond to you. And again, with the BL Touch on this particular board, it's so finicky, and they just don't, there's not enough people using it to have the information out there how to do it right the first time. And so you set it up kind of like it's a Delta. They have a Cartesian kind of version of the Delta instructions and a couple of different commands, but you actually have to set one of the pins as kind of dual function, and it's not real clear that that's what you got to do. And even in the instructions they have out there online on their own website, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You have to basically reason it out yourself of, oh, they're telling you have to do it this way, but actually you have to change it the opposite way. And I'm not going to go into that here, but maybe I'll make some notes about that. Bottom line is the board is working now. I was having a problem with it auto leveling, and just as Liam was kind enough to send me his old CR10 board and an ANET board, both 8-bit, that I could put in here, I actually got the G32 stuff working, which is the G code that goes down and senses the bed in like 9 different places or 7 different places, however you want, and it figures out the plane of the bed. So if it's warped in the center and not on the sides, it'll readjust your printer while it's printing to adjust for the bed level height. And that actually works pretty good. It's not terribly accurate, but it's accurate enough. And you can actually tell when it's printing something. You'll see the z-axis moving just a little bit as it goes across the width of the board. So if the bed is a little bit out of whack, you can tell by watching your z-axis motor, and if it moves, that's the bed leveling making its on-the-fly adjustments to correct itself as it prints your print.
Gotcha. I'll say for them to only offer support through Google Plus is, to me, a very weird thing to ask. I mean, I hate to say this. I can almost understand it if they would say through a Facebook group, because 9 out of 10 people are on Facebook, but to say only through Google Plus, I have to believe the majority of people who buy their product are like, Google what? Oh, Google Plus. Oh, I'm not on that.
Yeah, and it literally took, well, the first time I asked a question, the guy got back to me the next day. The next time I asked him a question, he got back to me a couple days later. And it's been, what, a month or so, maybe more, that my questions have been on there. And I've seen other people posting about other things, but not one other person has posted any kind of comments on my question about this particular thing. And I started out with, here is my configuration file. I linked, one of those paste bin type sites to the actual full configuration of all the Z-height stuff that I was using, so they could see what it is. And the first time the guy responded to me, I swear it felt like he was saying, have you turned it off and turned it back on again? Because he just repeated back to me exactly what I was already following on the SmoothieWare website, which he doesn't even have any, I don't know, say in or whatever. The Cohesion guys are not the SmoothieWare guys. The SmoothieWare guys are the Smoothie Board guys, and that's all their group. SmoothieWare is open source, and so everybody else uses it. But if you want support for SmoothieWare on the Cohesion board, you kind of have to talk to the Cohesion board guys first and try to get it done there. So it's just been a chore. Like I said, it's been tough getting it going, but I think I'm satisfied with it now. The best thing is the bed leveling. I was starting to see a little while ago that my glass is kind of got a dip in the center of it. So I like printing on the glass, and that's why I got the BL Touch, so I could keep doing that and have it level. And so no matter where I go on my board now, the size it is, it's a little bit different on the outer edges than it is in the center, and that fixes that problem. So I was printing TPU the first TPU thing I printed perfectly fine. It stuck first time, no problems. And actually, the only issue I've had is PLA doesn't seem to stick as well as it used to. But I think I just have to use more of that PPA stuff. But otherwise, it seems to be working okay, and I can pretty much do what I want again.
Gotcha. Well, I'm happy it got it up and running, but I'm really sad that they don't offer. I don't want to use the words proper support, but this day and age, it sounds like they just aren't offering proper support. Hopefully, it's just that they're new, or this board is new, or this product is new. And I mean, I can understand a day. I can understand them taking a day to get back with you, or even a day and a half. But anything more than that, to me, is almost, I don't want to say ignorant, but it has the rumblings of being ignorant, of just being ignorant.
Well, I feel like it's like a 1 or 2 man show, and it may very well be, and that's fine. One of the other things, as far as just a smoothie board kind of thing, this is an SD card based board. So I don't mean SD card based in that you take the SD card out and put it in to get your files on it. The OS is on the settings and the firmware are on the SD card. So when you plug in the SD card, you put a special file in there, firmware.bin, and when you have that on there and you start up the machine, it reads that, it flashes that firmware onto the board itself. And then I believe you can also put files on the SD card. I don't know what the eject process is because I don't use the 3D printer that way. I've been using Octoprint just to have, like I always have, just perfectly fine. But the reason I mentioned it's an SD card board is, being that it's an SD card board, your config file is the only thing you have to change. Unlike Marlin, where you have to change a bunch of settings in header files, compile it, and then flash your board, all you do is edit a text file on this SD card and put the SD card back in the board, and it reloads all your configurations. So if you want to change something, you don't have to go through the 2-step process of change the big config file, flash it to the machine, and then run your printer. You just pop out the SD card, put it in another computer if you need to, change your config file and put it back in, and it knows what your new settings are. So that's handy. The one downside of that is it's an SD card on a microcontroller board, which means that if you shut down the microcontroller poorly, or if something happens, you lose power, there's a certain percentage chance that your data on that SD card will get corrupted, which happened to me once, maybe twice, in the way that I had set up my configuration stuff the way I liked it. It was starting to work, and something happened. I unplugged it the wrong way, or shut it down improperly, and then my config file was broken. It was broken in such a way that when you tried to put the SD card in, which again is just an SD card like you use for your flash memory, you put files on it and put it in your computer and read your files, it was corrupted in such a way where it acted like the board was bad, because you could not access the board via USB anymore. It would not, the printer would not register as a serial device on the Pine 64 board that I have to control the printer. So normally you have like a Raspberry Pi with Octoprint, you plug your USB printer into it, and you send all your stuff over USB to your printer. Well, it was acting like the USB cable was not connected. And it was entirely because the config file on the SD card was corrupt. As soon as I took that card out and not reformatted it, but I took all the files off of it, put the new files on, and put it back in the machine, it worked again. But for about a week, I thought I had killed my board again, because the serial was just dead. It just acted like nothing was there, and there was nothing I could do about it. Luckily, I had another smoothie board that I could try it out on, and I tried another SD card from that board in the new board, and that's the only way I found out that, oh, it's just the file is corrupt. It has nothing to do with the board or my serial connection. It just so happens that config file is broken. So when it tries to read the config file, it must do something before it says, okay, this is a serial connection, and somehow screws that process up. So if you're using a smoothie board and you have that issue ever, keep that in mind. If it acts like your board is dead or can't connect to serial, can't be recognized anymore, you might just take that SD card out, take all the files off of it, put new files on, and try it again, because that could be the problem. And that was super frustrating too. But again, headache later, I figured that out.
Hey, Jonas, that one thing said, I understand all the problems you went through, and I think that is a real small team that works with the Cohesion Mini, and not justifying anything. They've been focusing so much on the laser stuff with that thing. If you go into their support, it's all laser stuff.
Yeah, I agree. That is the main focus. This board, though, is called the 3D Mini, so I don't know. And they do have an upgrade kit for. There's another. I don't know if it's a tarantula of some kind or a TiVo something or other. They do have like a special tutorial video where they go through the regular Cartesian stuff, but it doesn't have they're not using BL Touch is the only thing. I understand. I am my entire history of anything tech is I pick the weirdest thing and I do the funky weird thing because I think it's funky and cool and I want to do it the special way. And I always have trouble with all those things. Doesn't matter if it's computers or 3D printers or bicycles or whatever. That's just my MO. And I understand. I'm just reporting as I find it. No worries there.
Oh, yeah. No, because we were just praising up the Cohesion 3D Mini earlier before you came on the show, and I just wanted to point out, that's kind of what they're focusing on. It sucks when you buy one because they do advertise it as a printer board. They have the Remix or whatever that they advertise that as a printer board, that they really should develop a little bit more into the, work on that stuff to help you guys out, because if they're not going to contribute back to Smoothieware or whatever to get the support through them, then they kind of have to take that on their shoulders, I would think.
Yeah, I would like them to step that up a little bit on that end, but like you said, it's probably a 1 or 2 man one or two man team, maybe 3 or 4, but people are busy, they're trying to do stuff, and this probably isn't their main job, because I can't imagine they sell too many of the Cohesion stuff.
No, and I think last time we chatted, I think me and Liam had the suggestion of pulling that board, putting a Marlin setup, going back to the Marlin setup or whatever, any of the boards, and then putting that board in your laser. Oh, that belongs in there. Then you'll love that thing with that new Lightburn software. That's where it goes.
Yeah, I'm waiting to get some time to get into that. That'll be pretty awesome.
Yeah, and now they got it for Linux for you too. So that Lightburn's on Linux. So
very cool, very cool. Was there anything else in the notes you guys wanted to bring up?
I did apparently make some notes way back when. There's 2 in there that are YouTube links. The first is Chris's Basement, which is a great YouTube channel. He's putting out quality content. This is a getting started with 3D printing. So I think it's so you have a printer, now what? And he kind of walks you through slicing all the way through printing. Quick little 15-minute video. Excellent channel. You should just subscribe to that anyways if you're if you're a printer. And then the other one is something I was doing with the laser. It's Bob Claggett. I like to make stuff. Is that right? Yeah. The little pocket notebooks. We've been making these, and then I throw them in the laser to customize them. That's been a nice little project as well. Video that he runs through on how to make those, and you can just make those pretty much stuff you have lying around. You don't have to have any fancy tools or anything.
Gotcha. Very cool. Yeah, I will say it seems like most of the guys on this show spend a good amount of their time on YouTube watching these kinds of videos where they basically go through how to set up and how to get started doing these kinds of things. I will say my video watching is now maybe less than 2 hours a week total. I just don't seem to find the time to watch videos of any sort, either TV, movies, or YouTube.
Yeah, I'll second the Chris's Basement. I've been watching that past couple months, and that is really, really good. He's got a couple of good lives. He does a live stream every once in a while. Like the other guys, he's got a couple of Murph videos about that conference, and then he built a hang printer, and so he's got 2 or 3 videos on that, which are kind of interesting. So, it's all the pitfalls and what you need to do, and he's got a later update of the current version that he's messing with. He also is the guy that, I don't know, we probably linked it before or talked about it before, but he puts like 3 Octoprint instances on Raspberry Pi, including cameras. So I found that really, really good, being a Linux-centric person. Learned a lot about UDEV and how to set up rules so that when you plug in a USB device and you've got 2 things that are pretty much identical, if you can find a serial number that's different between them, you can actually set them up to be a certain device name for the certain ID number pretty easily. And that's how he's getting each printer to be separate on each USB connection, plus the 3 cameras on each USB connection. So he's actually walks through specifically what you need to type in and what file and how to get it set up so that it will recognize all that stuff properly, so that next time you reboot it, all your settings aren't lost of which camera goes with which printer, which goes with which Octoprint instance that you're looking at on your web browser.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm going to guess one of the keys to that is D-message. When you plug up devices into Linux, almost like over a network, how everything has a IP address or a MAC address, more specifically. When you plug up USB devices, even if it's 3 of the exact same item, when you plug it up, they each suck off information off a device and then convert that into a unique identifier. So then every time you plug it up, you'll get that exact same ID for it. I had to do that with hard drives because I always had to have one hard drive load, and it seemed like in BIOS sometimes it would load them backwards. So it was a pain in the butt. So I had to figure out the UUID for that. And that was a little learning experience, I'll say. Okay, guys, it's pushing midnight here. I'm speaking for myself. I'm really tired. Is there any last things you guys wanted to push out there to the listeners?
Did you guys talk about the titanium printing?
I don't believe so.
There's a couple of links in the show notes. Check that out or whatever. The billion-dollar companies like Boeing and a bunch of people overseas, they're actually using metal 3D printing and making titanium parts. And what they do is they rough out the major part in a titanium, and then they sculpt the rest of it back to the actual part they need. So they get some super crazy accurate results. And I've been, again, watching a lot of bike type videos on tech and stuff. And there's a couple of companies, I think SRAM and a couple of bike manufacturers, they're actually making parts out of titanium, by way of 3D printing. So they've got basically a desk size 3D printer that uses metal, and it's kind of like TIG welding, but it's like CNC TIG welding. It draws the lines like a 3D printer, but it's basically drawing lines of metal and making whatever part. and then they take it to some separate second or third process and finish it up, and then it comes out, perfect, and it's titanium. So they'll have, like, the piece of metal that connects your steering forks to your handlebars, that big hunk of metal. They'll take that and they'll print a 3D honeycomb with that, and they'll finish up the outside, shine it up and whatever. But the inside is completely hollow because it's a honeycomb, just like we've been doing the bicubic and the honeycomb infill. That's what they're doing with titanium to make all these parts. And so they're making these traditionally solid metal aluminum parts out of titanium using a 3D printer. So keep an eye on that stuff. That's here, and people are making it and selling it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time before metal and powdered sintering printing comes down to our level, just like the FDM and resin has been, and that's going to be amazing.
Very cool. I will say we do have at least one email that I completely forgot about. I will mark that to make sure that it is brought to the next show. If you want to send us an email, it is TheMakerz@podnuts.com. If you want to send us a voicemail, it is 7076-PODNUT. If you would like to be on this show, don't hesitate. Shoot me an email. Anybody can come on. Talk about all kinds of making that's going on. We do have a Discord server. If you would like access to that, you can either join us on Patreon or just shoot me an email, and you should get a link to that. If you want to just hang out, we are on services like MeWe to some degree. So bottom line is we can be wherever you are at. You have to let us know. TheMakerz@podnuts.com. I want to thank everyone for downloading. Thank everyone for the support, and I will talk to everyone in about a week.